It has been a little while. Where have I been? That is a story for another day. Of course, if you've been watching Elestrals premieres, you would see me casting it out with some of the other fantastic personalities. But no matter what is going on, you cannot keep me away from new reveals. I have pulled up all of the Sunstrike debuts on Elestrals DB here, and today I'd love to have just a tad bit of a yap session about all of the wonderful things that seem to be coming down the pipeline. So let's dig right into it, my fellow casters. The very first thing I want to look at is the new divines. Let's start with Ares. Ares, the man himself. When you cast this Ares, enchant up to 3 solar to it, normal divine stuff. You can disenchant solar from this to search a Colosseum or armament of Ares. And after this Monday, we finally have a hint of what armaments of Ares are, because we got the Spear of Piercing. Now, the really interesting thing about the armament and the Colosseum here is that they are titled from the start, which makes me believe that we're actually going to get a series of these this set, probably at least 2 of each, if not more. Now, one reason I think that is that Celestlio said if this Celestlio champion of Ares would be returned to hand, you can disenchant 2 solar from a stadium room or artifact room on your field instead. Now, both of the revealed stadium and artifact are 1 spirit each. So what we're looking for through the rest of reveal season is either an additional armament or Colosseum that is a 2 cost, or perhaps there are some shenanigans for putting spirits onto these things more easily. Now, of course, the spear here is going to give you additional attack, and it deals piercing damage. Very good stuff. And the spirits on it get added to the damage of the Elestral doing it. So this is super interesting. If there are ways to load up spirits onto armaments, that would make a lot of sense. You can make a big buff dude that is going to pierce in for a fun time, I think. Now, we can't talk too much more about Ares without talking about his searcher that comes with him this set, which is Armadon. Armadon is just a silly little guy rolling around having some fun, but you can expend and put this Armadon from your hand to the bottom of your deck, which is a really interesting thing. It means that you can reuse this in the future potentially to get a Ares or Gardon and add it to your hand. And then this Armadon's position cannot be changed by opponent's card effects. Kind of the opposite of the other Armadon, which actually wants to do the dancing. Now, this is really awesome because it searches Ares. It also searches this Gardon here. So this Gardon can be normal cast with 2 solar. We're lifting it up in here if you discard an Armadon. So something to do with that Armadon. If you get 2 in hand, you can actually just combo into Gardon. And then once each turn, if this Gardon would be destroyed, you can send an artifact from your field to the underworld instead. So this thing is kind of like a built-in Cybermaul, so to speak. So Guardian of Fleece allowing you to destroy it instead of the Elestral. The interesting thing about Gardon is that the fleece, so to speak, doesn't have to be attached to it. You could put a Spear of Ares on something else on your field, and Gardon could protect itself. So a potentially good defense wall, a 2-drop you could maybe sit on for a hard ascension if need be. So earlier I talked about, well, maybe there'll be an easy way to get spirits onto these things. Cockaway, Champion of Ares, is one of these options. When you empower this Cockaway with an artifact rune, or it receives 1 or more solar, you can enchant solar from your spirit deck or underworld to a stadium or artifact rune. So getting more with that are 2-drops might not be the play. The play might be that you actually just need to play Cockaway. In theory, if you have the spear here, you go Cockaway. Cockaway enchant doesn't do anything because spear's not on field yet, but if Colosseum's already there, you can put a spirit on it, which is actually important because the stadium actually gives +1/+1 for each spirit on it instead of the spirits on the Elestrals, which is also really interesting because you can load up your stadium instead of your Elestrals to get the buffs, and then it's kind of universal. So it's a flip on what we're normally used to with stadiums. But anyway, you go Cockaway, you equip the spear, and then you get to put an additional enchanting spirit on it, effectively making the Cockaway a 3-drop. You know, it will do, if it hits over a 1-drop, it will do 2 damage. Draco Ray continues this line, allowing you to enchant from your underworld or field for each spirit that is expended by damage it has dealt, and it protects your runes. Now, it protects your runes from destruction, which means tornado stocks. We're all going to be side decking tornado. But this gives you a very interesting line where maybe instead of playing the new Cockaway champion, you play the original Cockaway, you go Cockaway, First Light, go to Draco Ray. And then maybe you put Dragalis on top of your deck to get the Ascend next turn. You can disenchant 2 in any combination of Solar Fire from your Stadium rune and or Artifact runes in order to target and destroy that many cards. So basically, if you go original Cockaway, First Light, Draco Ray, and you have a Stadium or Artifact somewhere on the field, if that Draco Ray deals damage, you would have been able to put an extra spirit on it. With First Light, you put Dragalis on top of your deck, which means unless your opponent outs Draco Ray right now, next turn, you get a 12 attack, 6 defense with the ability to disenchant 1 from somewhere to destroy something when it comes out. So I think that will be a potentially potent line for Ares. Now on to Hera, which we know less about so far. Hera is really interesting. It's a divine that heals infinitely, ? So Hera, when you cast her, normal enchant stuff. And then if you return a Thunder from this Hera to your spirit deck, you can enchant Thunder from your underworld to this Hera. So Hera basically says, I heal you for 1 every single turn. And all of her items, all of her champions that we know so far, which is only 2, seem to play off of this. So Platypulse can be special cast from your hand if you return Thunder from your field to the spirit deck, which is, that doesn't mean you need Hera. The cost is returning Thunder from your field to the spirit deck, but having Hera on field makes that easier to do. You can only do 1 Platypulse that way, and your champions of Hera get +1/+1. So this is a free cast as long as you have at least 1 extra piece of Thunder on the field. We haven't seen anything from Hera that promotes getting Thunder on the field. Even Hera herself is net neutral. You heal +1, but the number of spirits on the field stays the same. Then, of course, we have Omphirial, which can be normal cast if you have returned 3 or more Thunder from your field to your spirit deck this turn. So that's not a cost. You have to do it some other way, which means you need 3 Hera on field, or maybe you need 2 Hera and 1 Platypulse. This, at the moment, seems kind of tricky to pull off, but as you can see, we only have 3 Hera cards right now, so we will have to wait for the rest of reveal season to see what is what. Hephaestus is going to be one of the old featured divines of the set. Hephaestus finally getting his time to shine, and we have only seen the 1 champion for him, Vesuvituga. Hephaestus, apparently champion, king of turtles, having got in the Smoltuga and Krakatuga champions last set. Vesuvituga allowing you to disenchant from it to search a eruption or champion of Hephaestus. Disenchant from your field, that is. And when you cast an artifact rune, you can enchant fire onto the field. Notice it says the field anywhere. You can put fire on your opponent's field, which I assume will be relevant when we see more Hephaestus cards. We will just have to wait and see. I think this is really funny. because presumably Hephaestus is the artifact divine. Except now actually it looks like Ares is the artifact divine and Hephaestus is the burn divine. He now has two champion turtle lines built around eruption. So interesting. I'm really excited to see what the rest of Hephaestus shows for this set. Aeolus gets to take the final divine slot for this set. We have two champions for him instead of the one. And they're two interesting ones. Wait, didn't we see Nimbug? Where are my Nimbugs at? Okay, so I guess Nimbug was technically an unofficial reveal because it's not on Collect yet. But we'll talk about this for a second because talking about the rest of Aeolus doesn't actually make sense without Nimbug. So you can expend Wind, discard this Nimbug in order to Nexus Wind. When this Nimbug is put into your hand without being drawn, you can search your deck for a Sarkune, Stratamoth, or Bag of Wind and add it to your hand. So super searcher, you go Aeolus, search Nimbug, get what you need, cast said Nimbug if you want, maybe do a Nexus. This Nimbug seems like a really good searcher for Aeolus. I'm excited to see what people cook up with it. Hilariously, for most champions of Aeolus, they have worked better in Hermes decks thus far. Nimbug looks really exciting. The fun thing about Nimbug as well is when this Nimbug is put into your hand without being drawn, Aeolus is not the only card that does this. There are other ways to get cards into your hand without being drawn. Consider Astrabbit. A card that went away and has come back in the meta, might now be a champion of Aeolus if you really, really think about it. Okay, back to the, I guess, technically officially revealed Aeolus stuff. We have Exaltair and Stratamoth. Exaltair lets you search Island Aeolus or Island of Aeolia. So this is kind of interesting. In theory, you can go Exaltair, search Aeolus, search Nimbug that we were just talking about, and be really off to the races here. We also have Stratamoth. Stratamoth gets +1 for each win enchanting your Aeolus, and you can Nexus win, and when you do, you can special cast a 1-Spirit Elestral from your deck. So it's kind of a fun play on Aeolus, except now it gets to come from your deck. I'm noticing a theme here with the Aeolus cards. If I just do a general search here, not for Sunstrike specifically, which is that they all seem to want you to have spirits on Aeolus and the field. So we can see Falocane, Champion of Aeolus, which came out live stream just recently. You can Nexus up to 3 from Aeolus to this Falocane. When you do, you can target cards on the field up to that number of when it receives and blah, 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 send them to the hand. So this makes me think there's got to be more options coming for Aeolus to stack spirits on him. Because if there's not, I don't know how they expect you to do all of this nexusing. So fingers crossed, we'll see what exactly they are wanting us to do to get all of these spirits on this Aeolus. Now, that covers the divines. There have been some other really interesting things. For example, this very interesting line of Dragon Boys, Noxid all the way up to Soul Fury. Fire discard is so back. You can normal cast this Noxid. When you normal cast this Noxid, you can discard a card in order to target another Fire Thunder card in your Underworld and return it to your hand. So, you know, a way to recycle the rest of the cards in this line. When this Brimscale is discarded, you can special ascend your Fire Elestral to it. So Noxid, discard Brimscale, summon Brimscale. And then you can search your deck for Soul Fury and send it to the Underworld. And then the Soul Fury, you can special send from your Elestral if you return to Soul Fury from your Underworld to your hand this turn. When you cast the Soul Fury, you can return one or more fire cards from your Underworld to your hand. You can target and destroy. So when we were told to fear fire discard, that Up in Flames would indeed be a problem. If you're not familiar, Up in Flames is a 2-cost fire card that lets you discard a Fire Elestral in order to target and destroy an Elestral with equal or lower enchantment cost. So even without Noxid, you could discard Brimscale for Up in Flames, pop something, and then ascend over something on the field. So I think Fire Discard is going to be a really scary, competent deck, and I'm really excited to see what it does, basically. I'll be interested to see if this is the end of the Fire Discard support for this set, or if there's going to be one or two more pieces of the puzzle before we start to cook with it. Of course, I cannot overlook Dugwords, Dougie, and Dugabyss. Earthmill, so back when this Dougie receives one of our Earth, you can send the top 3 from your deck to the Underworld. Then you may expend Earth. If you do, you may return an Earth card from your Underworld to the hand. And this effect can only be activated twice each turn. It now makes a lot more sense why Cedarsaur is gone. Could you imagine Cedarsaur with this? Terrifying. But what's terrifying even without Cedarsaur is Dugabyss. When this Dugabyss is sent from your deck to the Underworld, you can special ascend your Earth Elestral to it. When you cast this Dugabyss, you can target and destroy an opponent's Elestral. Crazy. Because one Dougie by itself can mill 6 times on a turn because you can activate the effect twice. Wow. If you play 3 Dugabyss, that's a pretty good chance of hitting Dougie. And even if you don't hit the Dugabyss, you get to fill out your hand with cards you want. I think this will go really good with Champion of Demeter cards. If you look at Gigaflora and Giraflora Champion of Demeter, they're kind of oriented around getting value from your Underworld. Gigaflora being able to bring back a Champion of the Demeter from the Underworld and give it +3 attack. Giraflora being able to, if it has the highest defense, put cards in your hand. I could see a Demeter deck that is Gigaflora, Giraflora, Dougie, and Dugabyss to get like maximum Underworld value. And I think that would be crazy. So I'm really excited to see what other kind of Earth Mill stuff we get this set, because I think this is an interesting way to take the Champions of Demeter's deck that is not necessarily just crabs. Now, I'm not going to hit every single card that was revealed thus far. There are a few more, but what I do want to talk about, and what I can't leave this video without talking about, is Lunar. Lunar's going to be so good this set, I believe. We've had 2 Lunar cards revealed. It turns out that the Havocub on Dionysus's Madness was not a champion of Artemis like I loudly proclaimed it should be. It's actually a champion of Dionysus. But what's more interesting is Havocub, champion of Dionysus, is Nabi 2. It's Nabi 2. It is Nabi 2 because when this Havocub destroys an Elestral in battle, you can special ascend it to Pulveror from your hand or deck. No special conditions on that. Just if you can make it happen, it will work. I imagine you can build a deck that is like this Nabi and Werepups, which is like Battle Trick Ascend deck, where your opponent goes to attack into this thing they think is weak, and then you go, ergo argo, my friend, you did not predict this coming. Now, Havocub would be meh if it wasn't for that. The reason it is better Nabi is that when this Havocub is enraged, its base attack is 6. It is a... Nabi is a conditional 6, but it's conditional on your opponent, which means your opponent can play around it and say, no, JK, you can't do Nabi because I have a Lunar or Solar Spirit here, which is really annoying. It's really annoying when the good part of your effect relies on your opponent not doing something. Turns out opponents are pretty good at doing the thing to defend themselves. Havocub, though, you get to control when it's a 6 by enraging it. You don't even have to play this in a Dionysus deck. You can simply play Dionysus's Madness in a Lunar deck and then use it as a battle trick. Your opponent goes to attack your Havocub and you go, JK, Dionysus's Madness, you die, I now have a Pulveror, deal with it. We haven't seen Champion Pulveror yet, but normal Pulveror is a 7/4, which is also better Doppelganger if you think about it, in the way that it's a natural 7, whereas Doppelganger is a conditional 7, the same way that Havocub is a 6 under your terms, whereas Nabi is a 6 under your opponent's terms. So I literally think Havocub is better Nabi. And that's not even to mention, If you put a Thyrsius of Dionysus onto this Havacub, it is an 8. It is an 8-3. It's an 8-3. You can't even cryoblast it. It's not cryoblastable. This is going to be good. I think this is going to be good. I think a true crazy lunar aggro deck will come out of the works of this. And so I'm excited to cook with it. And of course, there is Lumavale. I know people have a lot of opinions on Lumavale. Some of them think it is the end of the world. Some of them think it is not a very good card. I care about Lumavale because it is the perfect 2-drop for a Twilight deck. Now, what do I mean by a Twilight deck? Okay, so here's the vision for Twilight deck. There is a really cool intersection of solar and lunar. There is Calf-Mel, which can heal either. You have Rise from the Shadows, and you have Exaltus, both of which allow you to keep bodies on the field. Rise from the Shadows letting you bring back whatever died with Lunar from your underworld. Exaltus casting itself from hand with Solar when something is destroyed in battle. The basis of this deck is that you always have bodies on field and then you can ascend them. The problem is the only thing in this Twilight category you could ascend into previously was Pheramel. And Pheramel, sorry, is the bad card. It's got bad stats. 4 attack isn't doing anything. No opponent in the world is going to attack into the Pheramel and give you a free Pharaohgeist unless they can't read, and then they're only going to do it once ever. It's Pheramel, especially with the Enrage mechanic. If you run into someone who can Enrage your Pheramel and just force it to attack into fish and die, it's a bad day. It's a bad day. Lumavale I'm excited about just for the stats. Having a 2-drop in this Twilight category that is a 6/6 is amazing. And then it has built-in healing and negation. Now, we can debate all day long whether or not the negation is going to be that good or relevant, whether it is, the end times because Lumavale exists. I don't care. It is a 2-drop with decent stats that will potentially get to use its effect to do something helpful. On top of the fact that we finally have a good 2-drop to search with Comalis. Comalis' search pool was basically like, okay, I go get Spectrus, or I get the Moose, or I get the Camel, and those are the only search targets of Comalis that are relevant. It was really tough not to have a good 2-drop to search into. I will forever be upset that Phasmacore is not a spectral. Phasma is the Latin root for ghost. Okay, anyway, Phasmacore Fraud Watch aside, Lumavale is a specter that you can search with Comalis, which makes it really good in my book. If you go Comalis Nexus off of Artemis, and you have a Spectrus in hand, for example, even if the Comalis is cleared, Spectrus Champion of Artemis specifically, even if the Comalis is cleared, you can go Artemis, Suppress, cast Spectrus Champ, ascend to Lumavale, or you can just ascend Lumavale over the one of the dozen bodies that you kept around using either Exaltus or Rise from the Shadows. So I'm really excited for finally this kind of Twilight deck I've been brewing slowly for a long time to potentially have a path to doing something really cool. Well, that is it from me, my fellow casters, on the initial Sunstrike reveals. I hope you are just as excited for this new round of clashing as I am. I will continue to be watching with bated breath myself. Let me know your comments below. Did one of the cards I not cover, is it actually your favorite? You want to tell me about it? Go get down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. I want to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you again sooner than last time. Until then, happy casting, my fellow clashers.